So December is getting closer and closer every single day that goes by, and there is a pay-per-view card in December that needs some desperate help because it doesn't have enough fights on the card and needs some fights to be added. So I thought, why not do that in today's video, which is a UFC card builder for UFC 269 in December. So far on the card, you've got all of the fighters that are on the screen right now. We've got Nunes versus Pena has been rescheduled for the feature fight of that card. You've also got Kai Kara France versus Cody Garbrandt, which I feel like is going to be on the prelims of this card. Yes, that's right, the prelims. Kai Kara France versus Cody Garbrandt. That's how good I want the card to be. You've also got Macy Barber versus Montana De La Rosa, and also Priscilla Cachoeira versus Gillian Robertson, but no one really cares about them. We care about the ones that aren't on the card yet. That's the point of the video. So I'm going to slowly fill in the card as we move through this video and put everyone where they belong on the card and start making some amazing fights, starting with the main event, which is already kind of rumored to be happening. So I am cheating a little bit here. Charles Oliveira is supposed to be taking on Dustin Poirier in the main event of this card, and I think that's exactly what it should be. No more rumors. Let's get to the bottom of it right now. We need to make that fight next. I know some people are saying stuff like maybe Dustin Poirier should sit out and see what's next for him. Maybe Charles Oliveira should look at a different matchup, but no. Dustin Poirier is the #1 contender in the division. He has not yet fought Charles Oliveira. Some people consider Dustin Poirier the best lightweight in the world right now, so why not settle it? Charles Oliveira, Dustin Poirier. I am sick of these nothing championship matchups. This is one of the best ones in the UFC we can make right now, so let's make it. No more playing around. Charles Oliveira versus Dustin Poirier should be the main event of this card. Let's just move on right now because that's what it's going to be, into the co-main event spot of this card, which I believe should be, even though it doesn't follow the weight division rule, which most pay-per-views have, whereas a bigger fighter in a bigger weight class usually is higher up on the card than the lower ones. No one cares about Nunes versus Pena whatsoever in any way at all. So let's make the co-main event of this card Brandon Moreno versus his next contender, Alejandra Pantoja, also rumored to be on this card, but people are just assuming stuff, and I'm assuming the same thing that they're assuming. They're assuming stuff, I'm assuming it doubly, because I believe it's going to be on this card. Perfect matchup to be on the card, a great rematch. Charles Oliveira, Dustin Poirier main event, Brandon Moreno, Alejandra Pantoja in the co-main event, Nunes versus Pena in the feature fight. That's 3 title fights right there. An amazing card overall. I want to see Brandon Moreno, Alejandra Pantoja. I know Askar Askarov maybe deserves a title shot a little bit more than Alejandra Pantoja. However, he missed weight in his last fight, so I understand the UFC's opinion where they don't want to give him a title shot because he might miss weight for a title shot. If you can't make 126, how can we trust you to make 125? I understand. Let's do Pantoja versus Moreno 2. Pantoja beat him the first time and on the Ultimate Fighter as well, which wasn't listed as a matchup. It was an exhibition match, but still, Pantoja technically has 2 unofficial wins over Brandon Moreno and 1 official win over Brandon Moreno. I feel like we need to make the trilogy or the rematch right now. Looking forward to it. Brandon Moreno, Alejandra Pantoja. Let's just try and fix Moreno's legacy while we've got him here, because he's a young champion, and if we can wipe that loss from his record, we can have some good times with Moreno moving forward. Moving on to another fight on the main card. Now, here's where things get very interesting. Now you have no idea what I'm going to pluck out. You may have an assumption. A great fight to have on the main card, in my opinion, would be Leon Edwards versus Jorge Masvidal. An amazing matchup to add to the main card of this pay-per-view. I think it's just as big as any of the other fights on this card. I think Leon Edwards, Jorge Masvidal is as big as Charles Oliveira, Dustin Poirier. Maybe not because the belt's on the line. Oliveira, Poirier might be promoted a little bit more, but even still, Leon Edwards versus Jorge Masvidal is an amazing matchup to add to this card. Bigger than Nunes versus Pena by far. Probably bigger than Moreno, a different Brandon, my bad. Brandon Moreno versus Alejandra Pantoja. I think this fight is bigger than those ones. Maybe not the main event, but it definitely belongs on the main card of this pay-per-view. And in all honesty, you can't really put Masvidal's name anywhere but a pay-per-view, because the UFC is going to want to capitalize on his name with those pay-per-view buys. I think Leon Edwards versus Jorge Masvidal needs to happen next, mainly because Nate Diaz called out Vicente Luque, which kind of means that Nate Diaz is not going after Jorge Masvidal. Leon Edwards just got another option eliminated from the top of the contenders. If Leon Edwards doesn't want to fight Gilbert Burns next, he should look to take on Jorge Masvidal Masvidal next. They've been talking back and forth on Twitter, starting shit with each other about neither of them want to fight. I feel like just get it over with, make the fight happen. We've got all the promo necessary in the world, super necessary in the world, should I add, because Masvidal attacked Leon Edwards backstage. That is golden promo to sell this pay-per-view beyond belief. Leon Edwards versus Jorge Masvidal needs to be on the main card, and I know this might sound wrong, but another fight that needs to be added to the main card over here, I know this sounds wrong, is Nate Diaz versus Vicente Luque. He called him out. Luque responded. I think that's the next fight they're going to make if Nate Diaz seems interested. Nate Diaz rarely says something like an active response to a call out unless he's actually going to try and go through with it. I think Nate Diaz versus Luque would be great. The only problem I have with that is Masvidal's promo is going to be him beating up Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz's promo is going to be him tagging Leon Edwards. Leon Edwards' promo is going to be him beating up Vicente Luque. So it's kind of counterproductive. However, they all want to fight this year. They all want to be on the December card. So let's put them on the December card. And you know what that means? Even if any of these matchups fall out, we have replacements because there's 2 big welterweight bouts. You could end up on this card with Masvidal Diaz too. If Edwards and Luque both pull out of the fight, you could end up with Edwards versus Luque too. You could end up with anything. Nate Diaz versus Edwards. Again, somehow. Masvidal Luque. I doubt those ones. But either way, nice little backup on the card. 2 big fights, just in case one of them falls through, because they seem to fall out of the cards quite a lot recently in these big fights. So I feel like Leon Edwards, Jorge Masvidal, Nate Diaz, Vicente Luque, amazing matchups, and then you can have all of the backstage interactions on Embedded. Imagine Masvidal walking past Nate Diaz on Embedded. You know what I mean? Imagine Masvidal walking past Leon Edwards. Nate Diaz walking past Leon Edwards. Luque walking past Leon Edwards. There's so much history between them. The interactions of having them at the same event would be absolutely amazing. Let alone for the winners. Imagine if Masvidal wins and Nate Diaz somehow beats Luque. Then you can have those interactions and maybe set up the rematch. Amazing. Let's move on to the prelims. Of course, we've already got Kai Kara France versus Cody Garbrandt. I think that a fight that needs to be added to the prelims of this card is Kelvin Gastelum. Yes, that's right. This card's going to be amazing. Versus Uriah Hall in the middleweight division. I've seen that Kelvin is not interested in moving down to welterweight like a normal human being on a diet would do. So let's just keep him in the middleweight division. Keep him active, because I know he got dropped against Cannonier, but he didn't really take too much damage whatsoever, so I know he wants to get right back in there. That's what he said. He needs to remove the sour taste out of his mouth. Same situation with Uriah Hall. Lost a card not too long ago. Strickland's already going to be fighting, I believe, in November, so let's wait a little month longer and have Uriah Hall, Kelvin Gastelum in December. They both want to stay active and get right back in there and remove the sour taste from their mouth of their last loss. Let's make Kelvin versus Uriah Hall 2. Of course, Kelvin Gastelum beat him on the Ultimate Fighter not too long ago. Let's make that fight. I think that's a perfect one that makes sense. 2 guys in the top 15 of the middleweight division. Both guys coming off losses right now. Both guys need the win. I know they're friends, but let's just make that matchup anyway. They were willing to fight each other the first time. I'm sure they'll be willing to fight each other again if it's offered and if it's the only fight offered anyway. Kelvin, Uriah Hall. Winner stays on. Loser gets sacrificed to some unranked guy maybe, but the winner can stay on and maybe even take on an up-and-comer anyway. That would be amazing. Kelvin versus Uriah Hall. That way also, if anything falls off the main card, like we lose Nunes versus Pena, Edwards versus Masvidal goes to the feature fight. Diaz versus Luque stays as the opener, and you can just shimmy in Kelvin Gastelum versus Uriah Hall or Garbrandt versus Kai Kara France and then move this over to headline the prelims. It's always good to have a great backup for the main card, because I think the main card fights should be nothing but absolute bangers. Moving on to another spot on the prelims right here, the last spot on the actual prelims of the card. A featherweight bout between Sodiq Yusuff, who's coming off a loss to Arnold Allen, took some damage there but needs some time, so let's wait until December for him. Sodiq Yusuff versus another man that took some time off, Shane Burgos. That's a matchup I want to see made. Sodiq Yusuff, Shane Burgos, amazing matchup to have on the prelims of this card. Look at that prelim. Look at the main card with the prelims. Main event, co-main event, main card, prelims. Look at those prelims. I wish we didn't have to watch this shit, but either way, look at those prelims. Look at that perfect sandwich of a prelims. Great fight over here in the flyweight division. Great middleweight bout here between 2 guys on losing streaks. Great guys, two guys coming off losses. Amazing fight here. Guaranteed fireworks on the prelims as well. And then this one over here, which is like, who cares? Either way, moving on to the early prelims of the card. This keeps getting better and better. I am not done yet. To start off the preliminary card, or to headline the prelim card, sorry. we should do Greg Hardy making his heavyweight comeback in a last chance, otherwise he gets cut from the UFC, against Juan Espino. There are two big names in the heavyweight division that are coming off losses. Juan Espino got fucked over in his last fight, so I want to do him a favour here and give him at least a big name in his next fight. Headliner of the early prelims, Juan Espino versus Greg Hardy. If anything happens, they can shimmy up to the prelims or shimmy up to the main card, who knows. Juan Espino, Greg Hardy, not the fucking main card, sorry. This is such a good card. We're having Greg Hardy on the early prelims. I know the UFC love to put Greg Hardy on the fucking main card of any pay-per-view, regardless of how he's doing in his career. But right now, a humbling is in order. Juan Espino, Greg Hardy, headliner of the early prelims, moving on to another preliminary fight. That's a great matchup in my opinion, though. And you kind of want to just make the most out of one of them. You have two big names here. Espino's got quite a following. He won the Ultimate Fighter. Greg Hardy also got a bit of a following, good or bad. People know who he is. Put him on the early prelims. Make that matchup right now at heavyweight. They're both coming off losses and are both in similar positions in the rankings. And whoever wins is going to be right back there looking for guys who are going to get him towards the rankings of the heavyweight division. Great matchup. Moving on to another fight on the early prelims, which will be Danilo Marquez. We're putting it to open up the prelims. I've actually taken the wrong one. Danilo Marquez versus EK Villanueva will be the opener of the early prelims, and I've left one spot over here to go. This is a decent matchup. Both guys coming off losses in the middleweight division. Similar, but, you know, it's keeping the Brazilian theme. We've got Brazilian. We've got a couple other Brazilians on the card as we go up it. Luque is on the card. Nunes is on the card. Not Pantoja, Jesus Christ. Oh, no, Pantoja is on the card. There he is. And Oliveira. Brazilian theme throughout the card. We've got a lot of them. And last but not least, another fight on the early prelims that we should make, in my opinion, would be this man here, who doesn't get a lot of hype because he doesn't fight very often, but Yoel Alvarez is a dangerous threat, and I think his opponent should be John Makdessi in the lightweight division. I think it'd be a great matchup between the both of them. We've got every single weight class here. We've got light heavyweights, we've got heavyweights, we've got lightweights, we've got women's flyweights, we've got women's flyweights, we've got featherweights, we've got middleweights, we've got flyweights, we've got welterweights, we've got women's bantamweights, or featherweights, whatever the fuck division. Who cares anymore with Nunes? Fucking hell. Men's flyweights, men's lightweights again. Let's make this card. I think it would be absolutely amazing. I love this card. Look at this fucking card. Maybe you could even add in Chase Hooper to open up the card just in case one of the fights falls through and you still want to have a big card with all of the fights filled in. But that's what I think the card should look like. I think it would sell great pay-per-views, and I think that's how cards should be, and I think this is very possible. This is not a fantasy card. I'm not adding in random huge names everywhere on the card. I'm keeping the early prelims pretty realistic. I'm keeping the prelims pretty realistic but stacked. I understand they're very stacked prelims, but look at UFC 268. Look at 267. We're setting the bar high this year. Look at 266. Dan Hooker on the prelims. Dalkaus versus Abdurakhimov on the prelims. There are great fights on the prelims of these cards, and I want to keep that a trend moving forward. So this is a December card in my opinion. I guess we can save Ngannou versus Gane for January, and I'll make a card builder for that down the line. But this is the card I want to see. Make it fucking happen. I'm sick of all the excuses. Give us good cards if you want us to pay $70 fucking dollars. That I ain't paying anyway, because I have a brain, and I know how not to pay for cards. But look at that shit. Now, the only problem I have with this card is Edwards and Masvidal and Diaz Luque being on the same card. I think they could be separated, but one thing tells me, if Nate Diaz doesn't really care about fighting, I know that none of these names want to fight through till January. They all have families. They all have obligations. Nate Diaz, if you can avoid it, will not want to have a training camp through Christmas. There's no way in hell. Masvidal, the same situation. I doubt he wants to have a training camp through Christmas. Same with Leon Edwards. I think when you've got fighters that are really picky and can choose when they fight, they're always going to choose to try and get one in before the end of the year, during Christmas rather than after Christmas. Just before Christmas, win your fight, get yourself a bit of an early Christmas present. I think they should be on the same card, because why not just sell the fuck out of this card and make it amazing and try and break 1 million with every single one, because without McGregor, we're going to struggle to sell 1 million pay-per-views from now on. Let's try it with this one. We've already got great cards this year. This one just added to it as another banger. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Click that button up there. Toodle pip. I'll see you later. Goodbye.